So I have a question for you. The egg or the chicken? What came first? Because this question is actually quite related to where we are here and what this whole conference is about. And it speaks to another question, that is, who's better suited to be teaching students? Is it an artisan with the necessary work experience, or is it a teacher that has the technical or rather the theoretical background? So to set the scene for us, I'd like to welcome a former principal, not from Gomora High, no, leave that one alone, but from Soshanguve Technical School of Automotive, Mr. Philip Tefu, who joins us virtually.
I'm Philip Tefu, former principal of Soshanguve School of Automotive, also a chairperson of NAST in the country. We are now starting with the 6th Technical Teachers Conference under Sasol. We are going to be speaking about technical education, the stream model, which is quite very important for the country. We believe this is the way to go, especially in terms of addressing the National Development Plan, which is supposed to be in full force working in 2030. But where we are at this institution, the learners have already started all the way coming from 2018 to date. We started with the learners that are specializing, and they are already addressing what is the need of the country in terms of job creation, even to be self-employed. The learners, they built the vehicle, which is in my left-hand hand. They just named it Tumamina. It's a buggy. This buggy is running. It can take you to Johannesburg right now from Pretoria. And as we speak, they are also busy now outside, because the project is so big. They are building a locomotive. But that one is not going to be using the petrol like the buggy you see that is next to us. That is going to be harvesting the sun. They are going to get the energy from the sun. They are going to use the solar system with inverters and lithiums to run that locomotive. It is running already. They've already tested it. You will see it during the course of this conference at Carnival City. That's where it's going to be demonstrated, and everybody will be excited. It's a good thing, because South Africa is being blessed with free energy, because we've got the blue skies, and the sun will always be there. The sun will never go on holiday. It will always supply that energy to run that type of a locomotive. You will see it. So now, the artisan teacher working with the technical teacher, that is where you will see the good partnership. We visited BMW in Munich, in Germany, where we realized that if there is a good partnership between the technical school or a school of specialization with the industry, you always produce the right people for the right market, and you will always have what you call job creation and also self-employed. So we have seen how the technical schools in Germany work together with the industry. You will see, if you go to Leipzig, where they manufacture the solar systems, they also work with the schools, and this is quite very important. We visited this school, and the principal said to me, his learning teaching material, if he has to order, he will order a KUKA robot with the computers and the software, so that learners start to know how the robot operates, how the robot can cut the steel, how the robot can weld, how the robot can also do the spray paint. Imagine if the learner comes out of the school with that type of a skill, the learner is ready for the industry, and the learners can be able to be productive for the future and for the economy. So now we are saying we need to start to make a good partnership between the industry and the technical schools. We trained 21 artisans in the school, and we got an artisan from outside. He came in here, he trained our youngsters, the youth. 21 of them, they are all qualified artisans. They went for trade test and they are all qualified artisans in automotive, which is quite very good. And now imagine if we had 1,028 technical schools in the country. If all of them can just train at least 21 artisans, what number you have? You will have a bigger number which will give much needed skills for the country. So we believe this, if we are going to be discussing in our conference now, educators, is going to start to open more, and let's start to think along those directions, because the developed countries like Germany, they used this model and it's working. So we have seen it in this school, we tried it, it's working. As now we speak, outside there is an artisan. He's busy with students, they are building the locomotive using the solar system, which is running already. They even built the railway line, which is so important, quite very interesting. So even if the cables are stolen, the sun won't be stolen. Then we can still arrive home because the train will still run. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best for this wonderful conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Philip Tefu. You actually raised some critical questions there, which I hope that we'll be discussing in the panelists as well that will be joining us a little bit later. But as I said before, please keep those questions coming through on the polls. Joining us now to discuss a shortage of technical subject teachers, if there is any, that's according to the subject that he'll be talking about today, is Mr. Telo Kodumo. Please come on stage, sir.
Thank you, Program Director. It is really indeed a privilege and honor for us to be invited and, and that we were able to honor this invitation. We really appreciate, and to all the dignitaries who are part of this conference, all teachers, all principals and managers, researchers, and everybody who deserve to be respected. Good morning. Indeed, by coming down here was really a thought-provoking, as we want to add value into the discussion. Your topic is really intriguing. The shortage of technical teachers, is there any? So we will strive to answer this question, but from a very, very narrow perspective, because we are coming from a province. So then we'll just give you a context that you may be able to apply, which may not necessarily be the replica to all other provinces, but it's just the context that we will try and present. If you allow, you can lead with the presentation. The presentation outline this morning will focus on the following. Are you able to help me with the Thank you. Next slide, please. Thank you. We really wanted to look at what are the causes of technical, the causes of shortage of technical teachers. The first issue that we want to raise that is really an important aspect into the whole discussion is that being a teacher is a personal choice. And these choices that we make determines areas in which one wants to go and teach. How you have been influenced to be a teacher goes a long way to say, what are your preferences? what do you know about teachers? And what are people saying about teachers? The influences, how your own decision to say, do I need to be a teacher? And the second most important issue that determines your personal choices in this regard is how much does a teacher earn? And this is one of those areas, because most people, they really resort coming into the profession as a last resort, not as a first choice. And because of that, you might find that you might even have end up people having people who do not necessarily have to be in the profession. The second issue that really borders on the choices that people make, it's their professional choices. If I were to be a teacher, what are the entry requirements? Do I really have to go and spend 4 years in studying, or am I able to get a quick job after completing matric and get something, or I can quickly study something that may be able to help me, then I can be able to have my own personal quick income. What are the legal implications? What are those issues that you needed to be to take them into account as you become a teacher? They all influence your decisions to be a teacher. The professional choices, the rules, the code of conduct of the profession, the rules that apply in the profession, what happens in those things. And for a technical teacher, the most important for is the resourcefulness of institutions that are there, do our conditions of the classrooms, the quality of laboratories, the standards of workshops, can they be able to attract me to be able to be the kind of a teacher I expect? And this influences the supply of teachers into a broader discussions. The publicity, what is the image of the profession? When I look at these people, what are people saying about teachers that may able to influence? There's always perceptions that teachers are overloaded with work, and do I really want to get involved into that kind of discussions? And those are the real issues that are there. The other issues that have got an implication into this thing is accessibility. Where are the posts available? If I become a technical teacher in civil technology, do I really have to go and teach in rural areas, Betule, Bloemfontein, wherever that school may be existing? And am I really able to go to those areas? The post-provisioning norms, they all have an impact on these issues. In different schools, the learner enrollments in technical subjects, some of them, they are very, very low to such an extent that they are not able to create posts if they are, they are there. Then the other issue that you need to also consider that influences largely your supply issues is around the family issues, where I want to choose that I want to go and form a family somewhere. I am qualified. I decide after getting employment, where do I want to build my family. As a result, that influences the choice that I have to make as an individual. Where do I want to live? I can, teachers start accept every post anywhere, and soon 2-3 years after, or even same year after completing, you start asking, they start knocking in the doors of HR, can we please give us permission to transfer from this area to that area? Those are the issues that have got an impact there. The next issue is it's around the policy directive. The constitution of this country makes it prevalent that we've got the right to education. And the learner enrollment, the curriculum packages that have been designed, they all influence the provisioning of teachers, and in particular the technical teachers. Your post-provisioning norms, the policy statements, they clearly indicate what are those areas that you needed to take that into account. The next issue is around the teacher workload. Like I said initially, the perceptions about those things. And then the other part is your population movement, where, because most of the teachers, if you look around your developing areas or townships that are growing, your Sasol areas, you see the expansion of community there because it's growing and there's more and more people. And because of institutions or companies like Sasol, there's more and more technical schools being created in that area, attracting more. So as a result, there's more need of teachers in those areas because the population is moving towards those areas. But the issue is, what happens in areas where there's a decline of community? You take an institution like, or a town like Bloemfontein. There's a technical school there, and there used to be mines in those areas, and now population is slightly declining in those areas. What happens to the technical schools there? The posts are, the school continuously loses posts because the population is declining, and it's informed by what? The migration of population. The quality of teachers that are being produced. For example, if you are to institute them or start a new school where you've got your young teachers being appointed at the moment who don't, in most cases, don't have the necessary practical component in their qualification, and as a result, they have a theory, but they are unable to do what they want to practice. And as a result, that also influences the provision of teachers. In some cases, the teachers who are teaching out of their own specialization, you might find that there are lots of teachers, but those teachers are not necessarily teaching what they're supposed to be teaching. That's the illustration of how in the province the learners have been enrolled. That influences the creation of posts. This for the last same years, you can see the number of posts that were created, funded from the department, and that also has got an impact on the learner ratio, the average learner ratio. And look at the technical schools' average learner ratio. In some subjects, you might also be argued that 1:20 is too high. But in real terms, because this is an average, in some schools, you might find that this learner enrollment is too big and it does not allow the actual areas that we need. And this is your analysis of all our age employees in the Free State Department of Education. Out of 28,000, these are the how our employees are their age spread throughout there. You can see there that we are having a quite sizable number that is about to exceed 1,200. It's on its way out there. And that part of that number, look at your teachers, 866 teachers only for this year. They are on their way out, and those are the prospects of your new employees that may be coming. But if you look down closer to our schools, the technical schools in particular, you will see there this is for pure technical schools. I did not include other schools because if I include other schools, it might not project the good picture. This is just only pure technical schools. Out of 268 posts, that's how our teachers are spread in terms of the rank. And then look at your age there. You've got about 19 in the technical field that will be exiting because they are at that age. Look at the qualification side, and the relevant education qualification value represents the qualification level. Your highest qualified is one person, and you look at the number of unqualified and underqualified educators, then they are really not that much. If you look at the pure, but your biggest problem, it's there on your RQV 14, wherein you I see that's the biggest number, but the issue about the quality of the teachers keeps on coming out. And then what are the vacancy rate? At the moment, if you are to look at, if we are to answer anything that has got to say, is there any shortage of teachers? At the moment, if you look at purely the technical schools, our vacancy rate is at 6%, which is more normal. And this is the latest information from PERSAL, where we've got a vacant funded post existing. What are the investors teacher that we want? What type of a teacher is required? From the Free State Department of Education, what we expect is that we need qualified educators, either be at technology, electrical, civil technology, and all those technical. But all these ones, what we are saying is that sometimes we may have people who are academically qualified, and they will need to have a professional qualification, your PGCE. And this PGCE, we are saying if you need to join the profession, make sure that you have 2 school subjects studied up to 3rd year, which is a departure from many provinces. And from what we are saying as Free State is that when you've got a teacher of a technical school that has got 2 school subjects that he or she can be able to specialize on, it may also assist in the delivery. Schools will not necessarily have 1 teacher specializing, and the workload of the teacher will be commensurate to what he or she is appointed. The next issue that we are raising is that the EGD should form an integral part of any technical offering, because we are seeing a trend wherein schools will want a teacher for civil technology, a teacher for EGD, when the workload does not allow for that. So we're saying when universities and all institutions are producing this type of teacher that we need, please make sure that the EGD is forming part of that. The qualified teachers with the specializations. And then the other issue that is consistently, we cannot avoid it. There are schools which are offering some of these things in the medium of instruction of Afrikaans. And the learners are learning in that medium of instruction. So let's make sure that they are also capacitated to provide that. And then what is being produced? Unfortunately, we receive graduates with these technical skills, some of them not having or unable to do practicals in the workshops when they are expected to deliver as such. What are our plans? Currently, as Free State Department of Education, we are in the process of establishing these types of schools, your aviation schools, sports and exercise schools, the petrochemical schools, the schools of engineering, maritime, and all those things. That's the plan in which where we are heading to. Currently, we have started with the establishment of the Skills Hub, in order to promote the technical and educational opportunities. And then we are moving very, very fast towards making sure that the 3rd stream becomes the order of the day in the province. And in conclusion, Program Director, we're saying recruitment of appropriately qualified technical teachers is a concern for everybody. And strength, we need to make sure that we strengthen practical component in all in-service and pre-service, so that the teacher development programs becomes informed. And we continue to say, let's continue to advocate more and more admissions for technical subjects in all technical schools. We want to thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you there to Mr. Taylor Kuduma for that insightful presentation. I'd like to welcome Dr. Thokozani on stage, Thokozani Mchali on stage, and he'll be talking about the quality of technical subject teachers produced by universities. Sir, please come on stage. This one should also be quite insightful as well. Please do enjoy.
Thank you so much, colleagues. Of course, my name is Thokozani Mtshali. I'm a lecturer for civil technology and engineering graphics and design in, I would say, 2 institutions. And I will be drawing my experience from these 2 institutions on how we train teachers. Firstly, when you look at a teacher who we produce, in most cases, are those who had never had an experience of teaching, of mechanical, civil, electrical, engineering. So they come with other subjects, and because we know that as soon as they get in university, that's not their first choice to come and teach technical subjects. It's not their first choice. And therefore, that means when you accept such a teacher, there is a lot of orientation that you have got to do as a university to prepare for such a teacher. And universities have got a sole mandate to respond, firstly, to the skills needed in schools. And we look at the numbers of learners enrolled in that particular a subject. So what does this mean? It means that if ever we have got a few number of learners or students who are enrolled for civil services, we cannot now produce 30 or more student teachers who will go and teach these teachers in schools. And how do we know these things? It's because we draw experience from the accounting specialization, where they have been training a lot of teachers. And then you find that the number of learners in schools does not tally. And therefore, universities get accused of producing teachers, a lot of teachers where there are no learners. And of course, there are challenges with that, because firstly, when you design a teaching qualification, you have got to respond to MRTech, which has its own goals. You have got to respond to SACE. You've got to respond to the Council on Higher Education, which tells us that you cannot spend the entire time teaching this student about the skill, because they've got to go and do a teaching practice. And those teaching practice, we are going to deal more about that. I'm sorry, and I see that I was supposed to press. That means, yeah, the issues of digital, they are gradually coming for us. But this is indeed assisting me to have the presentation outline. I was still talking about the basic role of a university is that we have got to meet the learning needs. That means whatever that you want to learn in universities, whatever that you want to learn, universities are best positioned to structure that knowledge and skills for you. Also, universities have got to prepare teachers for a holistic understanding about the technical and vocational education. And this is because universities do not only train people for South Africa. We know that most of our students now, they are moving to the Asian countries. So that has an implication on how we structure our content package. Also, when we train these technical teacher, we look at teaching for the normative, which I would regard that as myself and you, we can be normal, but we are by policy needed to respond to the issues of impairments, which is inclusive education in the technical field, and which most of universities were still lacking because we still don't understand the issues of vocational pedagogy. It's still something that is under a debate. Also for the digital citizens, as you have seen when I started my presentation, you could tell that I've got some issues there with the technologies. So it still says to us, you are going to get this a teacher who's a digital citizen. And how I see this, you see more than ever before, how I teach engineering, graphics, and design to teachers, it's easy now because whatever you teach, sometimes they don't listen to you. And when you go around to check what they are drawing, they've got a phone next to them, they've got YouTube. They are looking at what you are teaching, corroborate, and have these discourses that are fruitful. Now, this is one of the important parts when my colleagues said, when I was talking about what do we say about the quality of technical teachers, most of the colleagues in universities said, please go and protect us, defend us, in Tatemjali. And I've got to make this be understood by everyone on why you are getting the kind of a teacher that you are having right now. CHE says when you have a program, when you want to deliver a program as a university, tell us the number of recipients. What will be your clientele? So just like I have indicated before, the issue of identifying a clientele is important. We have learned that from the economics. All teachers, we know there's sharp decline in that sphere or subject specializations. And that is why Council on Education says, please tell us, if ever you are situated in KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, let me make an example with Limpopo. How many teachers are there? How many people are you going to train and will effectively be hired? The previous speaker was talking about a relatively small number of vacancies that are there. Hence, this is subject to a correction. Last year, when you look at civil services in Gauteng, which most people will know about, there were about 40 learners in grade 12, the whole province, 40 learners who were doing these civil services. And you ask yourself, do I need to train this kind of a teacher? And CHE says you have got to be integrative. And how integrative we are going to look at that. The deliverer of the program does not need necessarily somebody who is a specialist, because here you must understand we are training a teacher, not an engineer. And that is often misunderstood by a lot of people because they are saying universities are the ones who are producing people who cannot teach. And we are going to highlight to you to say, yes, we understand that there are those gaps that exist, but also there's a role that you are playing in that kind of a teacher. What we know is universities, by the Council of Higher Education, you cannot give anyone any qualification without having undergone work integrated learning, which is teaching practice for most people. And when we teach, it is expected from Department of Basic Education that we train teachers for them, not for TVET colleges. And now I've got to say, we are also preparing teachers for TVET colleges as well as universities. as you teach in this profession. So it becomes a complex exercise. And I would like to say this becomes our point of departure when you teach this student. One, because we have an emphasis with PET, and we understand that almost everyone will say technical schools, they lack resources. And it becomes a duty for a university now to prepare a group of people who will teach others in peripheral schools and well-off schools. So we look at what CAP says, and I've taken this thing from CAP's civil technology, I think it's page 105 or 15 if I'm not mistaken, that all teachers now have this autonomy to determine content, skills, and knowledge that they will be teaching. So what does this mean? It means we have got to equip this student with that minimal time that we have to go and cope in a school that has no resources, but they still need to give a proper skills to these learners. And every time it's a problem of saying, but how do I do that when I don't have resources? And I say to them, digging a trench when you've got a shovel in your school, it is more technical to give students a scenario to say the school where you are has littering problems. And of course, you are complaining about not having money to buy things. But there is a project that a student can do, is to dig a trench and solve a technological problem, as opposed to training these kids to assemble boxes and present these boxes as a project of a house, of a bridge, or all these things. We don't need that. That is why now we specialize more on saying to the teacher, be able to determine the need of your school first, because we understand that even when I train you here as a plumber, as an electrician, perhaps the school where you will be going does not have that. So we have got to shift a little bit to say, please, now understand the contextual factors. And now what becomes the role of a university is to train this teacher to be critical first. Be critical, identify the knowledge, because you've got this autonomy. And we know that most teachers do not exercise these things in their schools. The practical that you have in grade 10 and 11, it's a repetition from years back in most cases. And that's not what we are looking for, what we want. And that can never advance us as the nation. And even when you've got this, I know now there are corridors within provinces where people are specializing. But you look at the patch that is done there. Firstly, the teacher does not understand what is given to them. Typical example that I'll give you is what happened last week when you went for training in Free State. Most of the teachers would have to move away from their schools to a school in town and get extra training there, and so that they can meet a certain standard. And we are saying that is the contextual issue that universities are having right now, to say, how do we teach all these people who will ultimately go to different spaces? Then it becomes an issue. And we are saying to schools, because now we are training these students to say they must create their own paths. When they go to schools, they find that schools have their own thing, which is not in line with a CAP. Now, where do you get in as a teacher? And this is where CHE really pin on us to say you can't spend the whole of your time teaching this technical skill. You've got to orientate this. It's because teachers are also involved in the quality of a technical teacher that is produced in universities. when we take a student for teaching practice, it is the first thing that you get when the student comes back is a good report from a mentor. Because you take 6 months, you say, go and learn the practical skill in school so that you'll be able to become effective. And then you get that the schools did not prepare these teachers. But there is a good report to say, this person can teach, this person can do practicals. And when we go there as lecturers, you give, for argument's sake, 60%. And then you look at a report of a mentor, of somebody who's always there with this person because they've got that mandate to ensure that the skill is received by this a pre-service teacher. You've got these big marks that you can't account for. And then a CHE says, no, that is why we're saying don't spend too much time teaching the technical skill because there's a will program. And that will program is, and we have got to say this, is largely compromised by our colleagues in schools also. Also, the teachers in schools need to come on board. It's very rare that every time when lecturers go for teaching practice, when you go there to evaluate a student, it's a theory class. When do we see a practical class? When do we assess? When do we develop that? When can we see what teachers are really struggling on? Because even teachers do not want to accept that they've got challenges. You know, every time a teacher, when you ask them at the beginning of the year when they've got 100%, you say, oh, thank you, congratulations, you have produced 100% teacher so-and-so. Do you have challenges in schools? They all move it to lack of resources. So it simply says teachers do not see themselves having a problem. They say, no, it's the resources that are an issue. And once you've got this thing, even in research, empirical research, that has an implication on how you train this particular teacher. So pre-service teachers, when they go to schools, they are more exposed to the administrative work as opposed to practical. They are marking, they are doing registers, they are involved in sports and all those things, when in fact, these 6 months, we want this teacher to be assisted because they come there also as your assistants. When you do practicals, include them. Include these teachers. What we see is extra classes. Extra classes. You ask teacher, why are you there at 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock in school? He's in class teaching theory. And what does that say about the quality of that teacher being produced? It means the work integrated learning program, we need as teachers in schools to do that self-introspection, to say, if I give this student 80 marks, and the university takes that because policy says we need also to consider what is on board. And we say now the community accepts this teacher with this. And then later the community comes and say universities are not training properly. And now we are saying to you, you took part in that. So it's an issue of also understanding each other's roles without really blaming on each other. There's one thing before I close that I want to emphasize here that is really a pressing issue about the subject advisors. Subject advisors, we know that they are there to assist to professionally develop teachers. But more often you find that they come to schools to assist teachers when the PET has been completed. You find that all projects have the same issues, but students have 60, 70 marks. And sometimes when this subject advisor comes to the teacher and say, but you say your learners are having a 76%, can they connect this a second? And learners cannot really connect that. And then because you are exercising this thing of, no, you know what, we are really trying to develop the subjects. Those compromises that we do in schools, they have dire effects on whatever that we have. Skills can never be compromised. As much as you are blaming universities, we have got people that are governing universities. And then please understand your role also in schools, that there is no single teacher that will ever be produced here in South Africa without you taking part in that. I think, thank you so much. This is where I can be found. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mtshali, for that insightful presentation. You can actually tell that he's a lecturer. You can tell that he's excited. You can tell that he's knowledgeable about that subject matter that he's been teaching. Speaking of which, I'm going to ask both of our previous speakers to please join me here on stage so we can just pick their brains a little bit about some of the stuff that they've mentioned. So that means, can I please have Mr. Delo back here on stage as well, and the Honorable Doctor as well, Mtshali, to come back on stage, just to engage briefly on some of the things that you have spoken about. I'll probably start off with you, Sir Telo. What are people saying about the quality of technical teachers in your province?
Thank you. In general, there's quite happiness with the type of teachers that are are being produced, except to say the only concern, like we raised in the presentation, is that mostly some of our new entrants, they really shy away from the practical component. They don't do the actual practice what they are teaching. If you are to design something, and that we see, because some of them, it's as a result of being admitted into this technical field without having the technical drawing as part of their requirement to join. Now, as a result, they are not able to analyze, design some of these issues accurately because they still lack. And we see again the same teachers when there are opportunities for development, your in-service training, the same teachers over and over again repeat going into those areas. And that's the part of the concern that we are raising to say perhaps those who are producing teachers for us, if they can begin to strengthen that area, because these people are supposed to be helping the students to match what the economy needs. Now, if you are producing a student who is not ready for the market, just to go to an industry and be able to do metal mechanics, because the student has spent 3 years doing civil or electrical technology, that person is not able to have that. So the same teacher is learning with the learners. And that's where the gaps are. We are saying it, we continue to receive. And the biggest problem is that now they will be saying, HR, you gave us this teacher. It's no longer the university that produced this teacher. It becomes an HR issue if the teacher is not able to do. And I wanted just to pick up on what the doctor said. The will, it should be giving the learners the opportunity to practice what they learned, but not to say the teacher who is helping the learner to expose his or her learning experiences from university is the one that must take responsibility. The teacher must say, this learner is really ready for the world of work, not the other way around. So the universities needs to up their game in that area. I want to thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Dr. Mchali, I have a question for you, and this one is actually quite personal because you are a lecturer at the University of Limpopo. Am I correct?
Yes.
Are you Zulu?
Yes.
From KZN?
From Kondo, Mpumalanga.
Mpumalanga.
Yes.
Why I ask you that, it's because teaching or lecturing in Limpopo, where there's Venda, Shangaan, and the likes, and there's no Zulu, the language barrier, how do you do it?
Oh, well, this is not only a challenge in schools, I'll tell you that much, because before COVID-19, we went also to TVET colleges, and one of the challenge that I had when I went to Venda was before I spoke to the office bearers, I went to the students there who were doing civil engineering, and I said, can I talk to you? They said they don't understand English. Secondly, I said, I can try Speedy, but also I've got a broken Speedy we can try. They say they don't understand that. But you know, it's just one of those things. It comes with a package. It comes with a package. But what makes things really interesting is that immediately when you put a sand, when you put a troffle here, say, a bricks, they understand now that, okay, we're about to work. And in most cases, why we've got these students maybe with compromised marks is because they don't understand that. And universities had to come up with a way of assessing the competency. That means more than just English. I've got to think that when I train somebody a practical, they've got to understand a task that is given on paper, right? That is instructional processing skills. So it becomes more than just an issue of generalizing the knowledge. And then after that, I've got to teach this a student what I call task preparatory skills, which is safety. They know all of them, how I am wearing, and also the tools that will be needed. You see, it does not now become the issue of just communicating using a language, but it becomes the issue of seeing what is being demonstrated and then ultimately becoming a demonstration skill. And I must admit that right there in the demonstration skills, there are still challenges on how you will train people in a group and assess them fairly, and also train people individually. And the kind of practicals that are there in schools are such that people work collaboratively. They either work in pairs or whatsoever. So, the issues of languages are there, but we do not really focus that much on them.
I'd like to pose this question to the both of you. I'll start off with you, sir. I heard the doctor mention that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it's a good idea that a teacher has 6 months in-service training to understand practically what they are doing. The question is it enough? Is half a year, 6 months, enough for a teacher to actually understand what they're going to be teaching, not just from a theoretical perspective, but also practically?
Okay, I think I can respond to that. Firstly, it's because they've got to understand the profession they are getting into. And we have been warned by essays to say all these young teachers that are there, they've been found, with all these mischievous reports, principals reporting teachers so and so is harassing learn and all those things. But it's the issue of saying policy says when you go to schools, there's a professionalism that is involved. Train them on how a school functions first, management of the school, management of a classroom, before I even come back to the issues of knowledge. And whether we like it or not, what we see with the reports the diagnostic reports is that in most cases, technical subjects have 98% pass rate and all those things. And we understand that it's just a matter of theory, not practical. And we are working with what is given to us. And even when you suggest, you can only suggest as a university through research. And the people with knowledge, when they come to do their master's degree, they tend to drop. And this is where we are saying, guys, you see, if you can come, because you are the one who's knowledgeable, we are going to bring or produce knowledge that is accurate for everyone. So it becomes an issue of recommending what is already known.
Sir, do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, maybe in answering your question, we need to understand the design of a qualification. For a B.Ed, it's a 480 credit qualification. And embedded in the design of the qualification, it's your work integrated learning. And it has been there throughout since the profession. It used to be called practice teaching. And every time when the new teacher starts with the qualification, the first thing that they should do is to go and observe, starting from the theory that the person would have accumulated. Now they go and observe how it's done in the field. And then later on, they come back. They've now been given theory. They come back to practice actually what they've learned. Now, when they come back for the second time, now the teacher gives space for this one who is still learning, who is now accumulated the new learning, to practice and be able to be supported to say, this is how you approach this topic, this is how you approach difficult learners in class, and all those things. So it is important that the work integrated learning, it's not done separated from the whole development of the qualification until the learner accumulates the 480 credits. So the biggest problem that we are experiencing is that some of these young teachers, they are left to go on. 6 months, you'll come back. And so that integration of that learning, you don't see it, because when they arrive at school, that teacher who is responsible is also saying, no, you are now qualified. You are in the university, you can run with the program. Yeah. And that's where you start seeing this learner committing mistakes or getting used to wrong tendencies instead of being mentored to be able to deliver what is expected of them. So those are the practicals that we have seen or mistakes that we've seen in the profession lately.
Dr. Mchali mentioned that you get some schools that are under-resourced when it comes to the resource skills that are there, if it's underprivileged and so forth. Is there any curriculum that helps teachers to be able to, for lack of a better word, maintain or be able to do what they need to do from a qualification perspective to work in an under-resourced institution?
During my days, let me make a disclaimer, I'm also a teacher. Before I joined the HR field, I was a teacher. I worked for quite a long time as a teacher. Part of what teachers we are trained to do is to do what is called improvisation. You are trained that when you arrive in a particular context and you don't find something, go and create that, such that you can make sure that you make your learning to have concrete learning experiences for learners. So in most areas as teachers, where what the most important component of the training of a teacher is to be able to show that make sure that if you don't have a square tube, you can go and design something like that. That learners will be able to create a concrete evidence for what they are doing. But I'm sure Dr. Will be able to expand more on that.
Yes, I actually concur with what you are saying, because right from grade 7, when there is technology, you look at that CAPS, we don't focus more, and this becomes a mistake when it comes to technology because we want to focus on Bloom's taxonomy, right? We've got a taxonomy that is there on the CAPS document, problem-solving taxonomy, which at the end it says somebody has got to be creative. And how does one become creative? We see a trend in all the practicals that are happening in schools that you've got a problem, you solve it, and it ends there. Yet, this taxonomy says, once there is a problem, once you have solved a solution, find a problem that is caused by the solution. And I can tell you, it's rare to get even those things happening in schools. And I say this thing to my students to make it easier to understand where this taxonomy takes us. We are saying, take a situation where there is no tar road. It's just gravel, and then the solution will obviously creating a tar road, which is technological, right? And then now because you've got this solution, now this solution has brought a problem where people are speeding. They are killing kids, people who are drunk, and all those things. Now, this person who has this problem that has been solved will say, okay, how do I then proceed? It's either I build humps or the electronic person comes with robots. You see, it becomes an incremental thing. But what we see is an elementary thing of doing things where one only creates and solves this problem, and they do not graduate to saying, let us see what is the problem caused by this solution. So that is what we will forever, and I understand that it's not all universities that emphasize on this. And we have got to emphasize this particularly to those who are having issues with resources in schools, to say, when you've got that level of creativity, you can still use the same material to do multiple things.
I think it's all good and well in theory, but we
Yes.
do know that the practicality of it is it's worlds apart, because that also creates a solution, but also another problem, which is teacher workload. How do they overcome that?
Well, let me start by saying all workers, from your basic conditions of employment act, a person is expected to work for 9 hours a day. And when you go to a teacher for contact hours of a particular subject, the highest is your 4.5 hours. And the remaining in a day, the remaining hours, it's the hours that are left for a teacher to do planning and support of all those things. So now if you look at the workload of a teacher in general, it's informed by your 200 school days out of 365 days that any other employee would work. Now, if you look at the issues around the workload, whether teachers are overloaded or is all embedded in the design of the policy. And now the teachers themselves, they now have to pace their own work in such a way that they are able to deliver. So a teacher currently works for a maximum of 35 hours per week, right? Just for contact. And when other employees work for 45 hours per week. So those are the issues that you needed to also take into account, that when you start opening the debate on the teacher workload, you needed to also understand the environment as it is, and make sure that, because teachers in the profession, we said we accept the calling into the noble teaching profession. And we are available for the learners for 24 hours. And that's why you needed to also make sure that when you open the discussion on the workload of teachers, you are really much informed about what policy is saying and what is the reality in terms of the delivery of the curriculum.
My last question is still based on this particular topic. The socio-economic impact of that as well is something that I don't think that teachers are prepared for. I say this because my mother is a former teacher of an underprivileged school. So I have seen and experienced how she had to use some of our own family household resources to assist with regards to that. And I think that I'm sure as time goes on, we as a country, you as a department can also maybe take that into account and also do better with regards to that. Because as much as it's a calling, you find yourself in unforeseeable circumstances that you can't just leave the things as they are.
I think firstly, our education gives us a status. It gives you something that you can't do other things. Let me just, because it's an observation from where I'm coming from. There's a guy who is retired because that community has a lot of timber, so they cut wood and all those things. And I'm looking at all these young boys who are qualified there, and they are doing nothing. They've got a qualification, but they've got that status of saying, I'm waiting for the job. Now look at this old man driving a Toyota. Every time when he wakes up, there are 5 people who are employed instantly, because the other one is cutting wood, the other one is holding, the other one is putting the wood on the van, they are driving. There's money, even if it's 700 rands, but at least people have got a 50 rand, 60 rand that is there. So what I'm saying is that how we have been taught and how we continue to do this thing of teaching, I want people to see that I've graduated so that I don't touch this and this. And when you say, what then becomes a technical skill? For example, if the TV is broken now or we are no longer online, they will say technical error, right? That means somebody is coming there to fix something quickly. But because somebody has suddenly this degree, they don't see that they can just go there and put back the code, you see? And that is a technical error being solved. And as soon as we understand that we can go as basic as possible, the issues of employment, and not in the formal way, but we will try to push things. As I'm saying, to say that guy I saw, I was like, I work and I'm getting paid more than this guy, but I've not created 5 jobs for people like this in a day or sitting there. And yet this guy in a week, if we have got to use the multiplication, there are 30 jobs that he has created. So it's that issue of saying more than just the qualification, more than just being a teacher, who we say in those staff rooms you've got a kettle that is not working, but you say there's no resources. We say, can you fix that kettle? Can you fix that microwave with your learners? And teachers do not want to go to that. And we say creativity, as it is enshrined in your policy, that's what it is. You see?
So you got to think outside the box.
You've
That's what
got
you're
to say,
basically
when you teach technical, stop saying I am civil, because that's one of the things that we're having right now. When somebody says I'm a construction person, and when you say, but you see, we can teach you how to make a bathroom, where you after that you still need to connect water, got to understand to make these grooves, and this person suddenly they don't want to do that.
Can I just quickly add there? You see, let me start by saying teaching is a profession of love.
not money.
Not money. you make, that's why initially in the presentation I said it's a choice.
Yes.
Right, because you love doing these things. You love empowering others. You love making sure that you are able to help others to overcome their challenges. And I'm sure your mother, when she sees that there's this little girl who's wearing something that is torn, she wants to intervene in that by making sure that she takes this learner from this bad context to a different context. And that is why we're encouraging all our young teachers to understand that this is a profession of love. That's why it's called noble. And that is why when you get into that profession, you don't wait for anybody to come and create a context for you. You are the creator of a context. And your learners will follow into your step. Hence, we become role models, because whatever we are doing in the name of love, it replicates all over, and it makes other people much better than we are. And that's why teachers, they don't mind about being rich, but they mind about making people being rich.
I think we can spend the whole day discussing this topic, but I have one more question, which is not as serious as the previous ones. What does the future of technology look like? When you sit down and think about it in 5, 10, possibly even 20 years from now, where do you see it going?
Recently, I had an opportunity of going to the technical schools in Brazil, Sinai. And I saw how industry has partnered very well with ordinary schools and institutions of higher learning. When a learner exits schooling in Brazil, is almost ready for the world of work. So I'm seeing this type of integration, this type of growing in this country, taking a right direction. And when I was listening to other speakers before us, I also learned that that type of integration, that type of collaboration, and making sure that technology becomes the order of the day, it will definitely make sure that we impact very well into the economy and make sure that the type of learners we are producing are going to be people who are going to repair our cars. People are going to make sure that there's no running water in the streets. Municipalities will not struggle, because when you produce such a grade 12 learner that is just past grade 12, can be able to solve some of problems that are there in their own context, in their own communities, and be able to improve the economy. So my gut feel is that the way in which where technology is heading to, it's really the area that will open doors for many.
Doctor, I can already see a speech bubble. You have so many things that you that you want to say.
Of course, I want to say for South Africa, it's packaged in two ways. We've got the fifth industrial revolution that people are busy with, and we cannot, look away from that to say this thing is coming. And as much as we don't have resources to teach about the fifth industrial revolution, there is internet which can still assist us to become global. But on the other side, we've got all these things that are happening. We've got people who are building houses. We've got people who can't connect. It's a South African thing. So we are, in essence, saying the future for South Africa is in two folds. It is those who are going to work behind just to address whatever that is left by other revolutions and how others would really work. I mean, one of the nice things that I say is that ICT has been successful because it tapped into the social part of things. I think everyone who's watching now have got TikTok. So you've got this IT, but you use it for social sciences. And that's where we are. We are saying whatever skill that you have, whatever technical knowledge that you have, see how it contributes to social sciences, because social sciences is future to technology.
While we're on that, let me just quickly look at my the app here and see if there are any questions to you gentlemen here. All right, cool. Let's see. Okay, so I see a question that says, to the previous speaker, I think that was you, Delo. You spoke about teaching qualification not including practicals for the teachers. Is there a plan in place to change that? Because most institutions offer technical teaching with educators who have never seen what they teach.
Thank you, sir, for that question. I think it is a very important question. What we have done quite recently in our provincial education ATTC meeting, where we are collaborating with universities, we've raised these questions. We've made sure that we are pushing our universities to review their entry requirements, their provision, such that we don't get just teachers, but we must get teachers who are going to be responsive to our needs, so that we can be able to develop the kind of a teacher that is going to help learners to understand. So we are continuously making sure that Mr. Tech empowers universities to design. But in the design of the qualification, they've got to make sure that they do build in a strong emphasis on the practical component, such that when you produce a teacher who's going to teach learners about computers, that teacher must be able to open a computer and use those programs far better than. That is why we are in the presentation in the Free State, we emphasize that anybody who comes with an academic qualification into teaching profession must have at least specialized with 2 school subjects, studied up to higher level, 30-year level. And that person will be able to have a higher level knowledge than expected. So that's what we are emphasizing, and that is why we are screening qualifications before we appoint anybody. If you don't have that in the Free State, we don't have space for such a teacher.
Thank you. This question is from Cynthia Malinga, and it's for Dr. Mjali. A technical teacher needs practicals. The subject is practical by its nature. Universities say they are training a teacher, not an engineer. While we agree, but this is a specialized teacher, please comment on how they impart skills to the learners.
Firstly, let me just indicate, because there are 2 things that we are facing with right now. When you teach, if ever I've got this practical, I can teach this practical to students. But for a profession, firstly, I've got to teach you the method of teaching this, right? And that is where we underline to say that's what becomes a profession for a teacher. To say, even in engineering, graphics, and design, we have got a lot of them that have been trained and they can draw. They've got marks to prove that. But they are unable to go and teach in schools. And that's a reflection back to us to say, have we spent time to teach about how to create discourses in classes? And we do this with understanding that universities do not work in silos. We have got partners, which are industries, who are going to help. I often hear people saying in other countries, a learner cannot finish grade 12 if they don't have proper agricultural skill. That means the teacher teaches this practical or this agriculture, and then they need to go for to the industries, people who have the expert knowledge about that. And I say to them, that is the essence of teaching. A teacher teaches this and has got these parameters, and then the industries, the partners are assisting in ensuring that the proper knowledge is there. Because if we do not include industries, we are running a danger where we are just teaching a skill that no one really cares about. We've got literature to prove that in most cases, even TVET colleges have developed programs and have trained people. But you see, they still can't change a toilet. They still can't fix water and all these things, even though there are practicals for that. But we are saying the issues of industries, bringing industries, is to say they understand the context more. They understand what clients need. And a teacher has got to be taught more of the methodological part. That is why back in the days you will be called a pedagogue, because you are taught pedagogical content knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you. This is the last question. To DBE, is there any plan to develop EGD teachers in AutoCAD course? Most technical educators, they don't know AutoCAD, and the department in providing schools with laptops for teachers to teach using computers, whilst teachers, they don't know how to even use AutoCAD. This is from Sanelisiwe.
Thank you, sir. I may not be able to answer that question directly, but I know I heard Dr. Similan earlier on when, not Dr. Similan, from DBE, was it?
Yes.
Yes. He outlined the plans that they have for training. Perhaps this question, we can take it back home, and if the curriculum experts are available, they can be able to answer. At this stage, I am not with authority to answer that question.
All right. On that note, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your insight. Thank you also for just sharing the knowledge and ideas that you have with regards to technology. On that note, we're quickly going to take a break, but we're all going to play your video, and we will be back after this.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen,
I'd like to welcome you to the wonderful world of the Sasol 5th Annual Technical Teachers Conference for 2021.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to the 5th Sasol Annual Technical Teachers Conference. It is truly a pleasure to be here with you today for what promises to be an exciting lineup of engaging speakers and activities.
The vision of being a long-haul organization, which is Sasol, which is last year was celebrating 70 years of business and being an innovator and technology leader in all the synthetic fuel and other products that we make. It is the same philosophy that drives the work of the Sasol Foundation. 10 years ago, when the Sasol Foundation thought about putting together programs that are based on a very, very long future horizon outlook, we did not know that today we will be sitting here using digital equipment as we are using today.
Electric cars, would I be related to any of them?
Yes, I think you would be.
As the Ministry of Basic Education, we are truly indebted to Sasol Foundation for the innovation and financial injection behind our partnership. I wish that our partnership in education continues to flourish in our lifetime to realize our vision of quality education and better life for all South Africans.
welcome to the 5th Annual Technical Teachers Conference Awards Ceremony. And the winner is Busy Mali High School from KwaZulu-Natal.
Congratulations to all the winners and to everyone who took part in this amazing virtual conference.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Joining us now, that's going to do another presentation for us, is Ma'am Yvonne Lechaba, Recruitment of Artisans as Teachers. Ma'am, please come forward and bless us with your presentation. We're looking forward to hearing what you have to say with regards to artisans. We've touched on teachers, but we'll get to that later when we have a discussion panel with you.
Thank you and good morning once more. My name is Nkele Yvonne Lechaba. I'm head of registration and teacher professionalization for the South African Council for Educators. I will be taking you through how it says doing its best on making sure that the right and the well-qualified artisans are recruited to be teachers in our schools. But first, I need to outline something. We have a professional home. So if we recruit them to be teachers in our schools, it means they will be members of our professional home. They will belong to SACE. And SACE is the professional home for office-based school educators, college lecturers, ECD practitioners, and including all educators that belong in the three-stream, sector. We are the protector, we are the defender, we are the guardian, we are the caretaker, we are the watchman. We oversee the teaching profession, hence our interest in making sure that well-qualified not ECD practitioners, my apologies, well-qualified artisans are being recruited and are being taken through as members of our profession. We need them, of course. They are specialists. They are the specialists that this country needs. We need to make them aware. First, we do take them through the process of making them aware that if you belong to our professional home, you belong to a very inspiring and incredible profession, and that there are values. And these values are not the values of the employees at SACE, but they are the values of all who are belonging to SACE, meaning as and when they belong to our profession, then these values will be the values that they need to be abiding by them on their daily lives and on their daily practice in the classrooms. So as we recruit them, we make sure that they understand that they must go out there and do the work of quality. They must be service-oriented. They must know that there is tolerance. They will be finding, different kinds of learners in the classrooms, in the schools. They must have tolerance towards those learners. They must know that they are accountable for each and every learner in their presence in the schools. They must, present themselves, with dignity, and integrity should be their heartbeat in everything that they do in their practice. As council, we also, as we are in this process of making sure we have enough and adequate artisans in the sector, we want to make them aware that we exist not because of the fun of existence, but we exist because of an act of parliament, and that there are three objects that guide us through our act: to provide registration for educators, to promote professional development, and to set and maintain and protect ethical and professional standards. This act is the act that is expected to be taken care, to be respected by all who are members of our profession. And this is just another straw of legislative and policy environment. We need to also remind everyone who's willing to become part of us that we are regulating the preschooling, schooling, but also even the independent sector is regulated by us, because other than that, others do think that if we are not in the public schooling sector, SACE does not affect us. So all the artisans that are in the schooling sector, as long as you are in a school, whether an independent or a public school, whether it's post-schooling, you are an artisan in a post, we are there for you. You are mandated to be member of SACE by an act of parliament that is guiding the existence of SACE. I want to pause a bit here because this will guide us on what we should do and how we would do it. As and when we recruit our artisans to becoming member of our profession, we are saying, like I have indicated, that the Act has 3 objects, one of which is registration. How do we register and whom do we register? We just don't register everyone. We register all the professionals that meet the requirements, but nonetheless, they must be fit to practice. And what do we do to make sure that they are fit to practice? There's a value chain that we follow as and when we register you to be part of our sector. We take you through a process of verification, meaning we will be exposing as council all the qualifications to SAQA to check their authenticity, to make sure that we are having credible artisans who are teaching in our schools. We want to remind all that are interested in becoming member of our profession to say, we are the port of entry into the teaching profession, and they have to go through us before they go in any classroom in this country. We know there are artisans who studied in other countries other than South Africa. They are foreign nationals and some are South African citizens. Now, if you have studied in any other country other than South Africa, then kindly note that your qualifications must first, before you come seek registration with council, your qualifications must first be taken to SAQA for verification. And this applies to all qualifications that are acquired outside the boundaries of this country, whether you are a citizen or a foreign national. In addition, we require that all applicants submit to us a police clearance. We do work with AFISWITCH as council, and if the applicants give or hand in or submit a clearance certificate acquired from AFISWITCH, we also accept it. And please, we know that in most cases when you go and seek your police clearance or your clearance certificate, there are times when it reveals things that you don't want the world to know about, your past crimes. So now please, don't go and fiddle with that trying to hide. Bring it to us. We've got processes and measures in place to deal with all the applicants who have criminal records against their names. Kindly note that we have access, even if you can edit and try to make your police clearance look good. We will see when we verify it that you have tampered with it, and that will be another criminal offense and a very serious one on your name. So we humbly request that all the applicants submit the clearance certificate or police clearance that they shall have acquired from SAPS as they are to council. We will then, if ever there are challenges, you know, your criminal offenses that were performed, you know, for taking a roll-on on a store while you are still young, surfacing, we will deal with that. Don't be discouraged, come through. And we know cases differ. We deal with each and every case differently. I don't say if we all have cases, we're going to register. I'm saying we have measures and system in place to deal with all applicants whom their clearance certificate reveals that they have some criminal offenses. Then we also take foreign national qualifications to DHEAD for them to check for us if they are in line with our policy requirements for tertiary qualifications. And we are very cognizant that some of the applicants have acquired their qualifications through RPL. And we also want to bring forth that even though I didn't mention QCTO, we work very close with QCTO to verify some of the qualifications if need be. And that the qualifications must be credible. We want qualified artisans. They must at least have a trade test. They must at least be in possession of an entry minimally. If you're not in possession of an entry, colleague, please go and study and do your trade test before you come through to seek application and registration with council. And we know there are RPL processes in place. And we know there are colleagues who will do one course here, one course there, one course there. Colleagues, it is not helping. Please start and finish your qualifications, because you are also not assisting those institutes that will be trying to help you with RPL. And as council, we don't provide RPL, but tertiary institutions do. We want that qualification from your tertiary institution, and we also want your trade test. They must be paired together when you come through as an artisan to come seek registration with council. And we want to make our colleagues aware that we are also taking vetting serious. We will expose your documents to be vetted by the Department of Justice to make sure that your name is not on the National Register of Sexual Offenders. Remember, we cannot take sexual offenders to our classrooms. It cannot happen. So it's not that we don't like you. We appreciate, we like you, but if you have committed an offense of sexual nature and you are registered in the National Register that is held by the Department of Justice, then measures and processes will be put in place, and you will not be allowed to be in our classrooms. You will not be allowed to be in our classrooms. However, proper procedures will be made. You will be taken through the processes. You will be advised on how and what to do. We want to make sure that we do screening thoroughly, because we take our learners serious. Remember now, we are introducing your speciality within the lower levels of our classrooms. It's no longer, in the past it will be, at TVET colleges and community colleges. But now, because your skill is needed even in the lower grades in our schools, then we have to make sure that we do thorough vetting as council. It is our duty to do the regulatory processes that we had to do. It's not that we don't like you. And in most cases, applicants, when they come seek registration with council and we are busy with this vetting process, they get agitated, they get angry, they think we are taking long. Allow us to do what is right. Allow us to give the state, the country, credible teachers that have been taken through the processes of screening and vetting. I hope colleagues will make sure that when they come through, they have all that is needed. Meaning, if you don't have a police clearance, you cannot come and seek registration with council. If you do not have qualifications, you cannot come and seek registration with council. If you do not have the trade test, like I said, the trade test and the minimum entry must be paired together. You cannot come and seek registration with council. And if you have been taken through RPL processes, don't bring your portfolio to council. We are not in the position to handle your portfolios. Take it to the relevant institution so that they can give you the relevant qualification. And if you come to us and say, I have been taken through RPL processes, and you don't bring us the right documentation from where you have being taken through for RPL processes, kindly note that we will be advising you to go and collect the correct documents, because we want to make sure that adequately, correctly qualified educators are in our schools. We don't want to see a situation whereby non-qualified teachers are in our schools, because we will not be doing justice to our sector. So this is how we engage and embark on the process of making sure that we recruit well-qualified artisans who meet our requirements, who are credible to become teachers in our schools. And we are looking forward to having them come in numbers so that we can register them. But they must know we don't hate anybody. We take everyone through the same processes and procedures. Let me take this opportunity and thank you.
All right, thank you, Ma'am Yvonne, for that insightful message. If you can please just join me here and take a seat here so that we can maybe ask you one or two questions. While you do that, please come sit closer.
Okay.
I won't bite, I promise. I want not too much. We have a poll that we're running here. Just a couple of questions. One of them would be, would you like to qualify as an artisan? Yes or no? That's where you should vote. If you qualified as an artisan, would you remain in teaching? Yes or no? Where did you qualify for what you're teaching? University of Technology, academic university, the list is there. Do you feel your training institution prepared you enough to teach your trade? Is there a place for artisans in schools? So those are just the questions that we have running here on our poll. And I'd like to actually ask you a particular question about artisans. One of the guests was just talking about them and teachers as well. What is more better to teach, or who is more better to teach a student? A qualified artisan who has the work experience, or a teacher with the theoretical experience, in your view?
In education, we need both experience and theory. Because theoretically, we take the trainees through the landscape where they will be working to say, this is how the landscape look like theoretically. You know, your policies are part of that theory. Your legislature are part of the theory. Your methodology are part of the theory. Your pedagogy are part of the theory to say, you know, how inclusive you should be. You know, diversity, our classrooms are diverse. So that is the major part played by theory. So hence I said the trade test end there and 3, because during that process, that's where this process will be, you know, built in to prepare the teacher. So we want our teacher to have both. A combination of both is very, very critical and crucial, because theory without practice will frustrate you when you enter that space. And practice without theory will frustrate you equally if you enter that space.
Mami Yvonne, we see a lot of car guards, petrol attendants, and also domestic workers that come from various countries, Zimbabwe, just to name a few, that are qualified teachers from where they come from. But when they enter this country, their qualifications don't meet the SACA standards. What can they do to make sure that they also are able to practice their trade in this country?
Okay, thank you for that question. It's very crucial. You know, we have SAQA, which outlines, and DHET. SAQA and DHET. SAQA outlined qualifications according to NQF levels. And we have policies set by the department that guide the amount of work that needs to be done and the duration that has to be taken through for a teacher to can become a well-prepared teacher to face the challenges and the work in the classrooms. Now, some of our foreign national qualification, when taken through the NQF rigorous process of assessing them against our qualifications, they lose the level which they were supposed to have been, or they lose the level of professionalism which was given to them from their home. For example, if they come with a diploma, if I want to be practical, if they come up with a diploma in the country, a diploma in education, and an O-level, which is on our side, we're talking matric, but in their country they have O and A level. If an applicant come with a matric O-level from their country and a diploma, and they take these two documents to SAQA, these documents are assessed by SAQA. When they are done with it, this document doesn't qualify this person according to the level that is agreed by the policies of this country for teachers to be teaching. We've got NQF levels that are needed by this country for teachers to be in our classrooms. So what we do advise is this, that as soon as your qualifications have been taken through SAQA and you realize that the NQF level is not the one that is acknowledged for teaching in this country, please don't despair. We've got tertiary institutions. Go and register any other module courses or any other qualification that can upscale your qualification to the right levels of this of the qualifications in our country. And please, don't take stories from people. Consult university, consult DHET, consult SAQA. Not friends. They will not help. They will frustrate you. And in most cases, they lie to each other. So I am guiding, come consult us, go consult DHET, go consult SAQA, or the tertiary institution. You will be guided on what to do.
Thank you, Ma. What can we do to entice more people to become artisans in this country? Because according to some of the guest speakers that we've had here this morning, they've been saying that there's a shortage of artisans in this country.
Yes, indeed. I'm also looking into my records when I register them, and I want to make you aware that there are colleagues who are not thinking that this can be an exceptionally highly demanded qualification or profession in this country, and it was looked down at. And now what we need to do as council, which is also moving to be recognized by SAQA as a professional body, we are out there to advocate for teaching as a career of choice. And amongst others, we will be working with schools to encourage learners, to make them aware that being a teacher doesn't mean you're only going to teach history, you're only going to teach maths, and being a good teacher doesn't mean you should be a physical science teacher. You can be a teacher that is working with artisans in our normal schooling, in our technical schooling, in our schooling sector, and still be the best teachers. You are in high demand. So we are out there as council to make the learners in schools, because that is where it starts. They should start seeing it there, and they will take it serious, and they will appreciate it to say, okay, fine, it's equally important as being a maths and science teacher. So that is what we need to be doing, to position it well.
But Ma, don't you think that if you want to go on a drive in recruiting people to study artisan, this will also play a factor in it?
This as in the salary,
Money.
or this
Yes.
is as in the fees for schooling?
Never mind the fees for schooling. The end game is to earn a living, the salary.
Okay. As we speak, our ELRC, our department, the ministers, and council, we are all, behind, closed doors, dealing with those issues, because they need to make sure that these colleagues, their level of, knowledge, their qualifications. Remember, in our sector, we are driven by policy. Their level of knowledge, their qualifications are up to date and are upscaled to a particular, a level of a salary. So if they come with a particular salary, like even with our normal professionally qualified teachers, if they come with a certain level of qualification, it pushes them to a certain level of salary. So then it is not something that is thumbsucked, but there are policies, put in place. But we are also aware that it was a space that was loosely regulated, especially from our side as council. So we are saying we should tighten and make sure that people first are properly qualified, so that when we start talking salary, we have taken care of qualifications. Let me tell you something, maybe you don't know. Even with professionally qualified teachers, before we talk salary, we first talk qualification. So, and there are policies driving that space. So if we know that a police, a qualification that is, packaged and takes so long to achieve will acquire this level of salary, we have requirements per each level of qualification. So before we even talk salary, we must make sure our qualifications. That's why I'm stressing that even if they have modules, bits and pieces, please go complete your qualification, top it up with the trade test. And when I said N3, it's N3 from our side. We wish to see artisans with N6.
So, but if I get an N6, will my N6 also materialize in the pocket as a salary?
Let's give the policymakers that tough time to deal with.
Can we not do that now?
The policy is not
Why
a
it
matter
mustn't-
of now
It
and
shouldn't,
here.
it shouldn't take time, is what I'm trying to say.
What I'm saying is the policy is not a matter of now and here. But what I'm saying is the policymakers, the ELRC, the department are already busy with that process. It's not like it's not in place.
Okay.
It's in place. But I'm saying if you come in our space and you are having, you are at the lower levels of your qualification and somebody is coming at, a certain level higher than you, you should know that it is up to you to professionally improve yourself so that you can, attract, your qualification attract, your salary.
No, Ma, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. You can tell, look at Mom Yvonne actually knows what she's talking about. She answered everything spot on. Thank you so much, Ma.